Chapter 1. Journey to Istanbul. It is early morning on a sunny spring day in April. Heathrow Airport, London, is busy, as usual. Hundreds of people are arriving, leaving, or waiting for planes. In the departure lounge of Terminal 1, a man is sitting reading a newspaper. He does not like airports. There are too many people, and he is always nervous when he flies. He looks at his watch impatiently too. Then he hears the announcement over the loudspeakers. British Airways announced the departure of flight BE570 for Istanbul. Will passengers please proceed to gate 16 for boarding? Tom Smith picks up his suitcase and walks towards gate 16. 20 minutes later, the plane is preparing to leave. It moves slowly across the airport to runway number 2. Tom is sitting looking out of the window. The plane suddenly moves forward, races down the runway and rises into the air. Tom looks down at the houses and roads far below, and smiles. London is behind him. Now he is on his way to Istanbul. Tom relaxed and took a letter from his pocket. Rizab Bey at 11:03. Kamerot Sokak. Ayaz Parsa, Istanbul. My dear Tom. Thank you for your letter. I am so happy that you can come and visit me for a holiday. Life here in Istanbul is very interesting. I am enjoying my work, but I miss you very much. It will be wonderful to see you again. I'm sure we will have a very nice holiday. Spring is here, and the weather is beautiful. I have to work on Monday 14th of April, the day you arrive. So I can't come to the airport to meet you, but you can take a taxi from the air terminal to Taksim Square. That's in the center of the new part of the city. There's a big hotel called the Park Hotel near the square. I'll meet you there at 5 o'clock. We'll meet in the American bar. The view over the city is beautiful. I can't wait to see you again, Tom. I have so much to tell you. So remember, the Park Hotel, Taksim Square, 5 o'clock. See you on the 14th. Love. Angela. Tom sat for a moment, looking at his fiancée's letter. Then he put it in his pocket. He looked down at the green fields of France, as the plane continued its journey across Europe. Have you been to Istanbul before? Said a voice. It was the young man in the next seat. No, I haven't, said Tom. Have you? The man smiled. My home is in Istanbul. I'm studying in London at the moment. I'm going home for a holiday. Really? Said Tom. Where are you studying? At London University. The two men sat talking, as the stewardesses began serving lunch. The young man told Tom his name was Kamal. His parents had a shop in Istanbul. Are you meeting someone in Istanbul? Kamal asked. My fiancée, said Tom. She's working in Istanbul. That's interesting. How long has she been there? She went to Istanbul 2 months ago. She works for a small company which is starting to export to England. She's making the arrangements. Exporting always seems so difficult, said Kamal. It seems difficult, Tom agreed. But that's Angela's job. She's an expert in importing and exporting. Her father has an import, export agency in London, and she has worked for him for some years. She's almost completed her work in Istanbul now. The company has already started to send goods to England. She'll be coming back to London soon. What kind of goods do they export? Asked Kamal. All kinds of things, brass ornaments, copper pots, trays, leather and onyx articles. Angela's father thinks these goods will sell very well in England. That's interesting, said Kamal. My parents sell things like that in their shop in Istanbul. The two men went on talking as the plane flew over Italy and Greece towards Turkey. Soon they were descending to Yasilkor Airport, Istanbul. When the plane stopped, Kamal stood up. I hope you enjoy your stay in Istanbul, he said. Here's my telephone number. If you need anything, phone me. I live in Sicily. It's not far from the center of the city. Thanks, Kamal, that's very kind of you. Not at all, replied Kamal. Nice to meet you. And now, goodbye. Tom went through customs and immigration and walked towards the airport exit. Chapter 2. The American Bar. A bus for the city air terminal was waiting outside the airport. Tom got in and sat down beside the window. Other passengers got on and the bus left the airport and drove towards Istanbul. Soon they were driving past the houses and apartment blocks near the city. Then they passed the old city walls. Tom felt excited and looked at everything. He saw beautiful old mosques and street markets. The bus was now approaching the center of old Istanbul. It stopped at some traffic lights. A car stopped beside the bus. The door opened and a woman got out. Two men were with her. Suddenly Tom jumped to his feet. It was Angela. Angela! Tom shouted. Angela! Here! It's me, Tom. He knocked on the bus window. Suddenly the traffic lights changed and the bus moved forward. Tom ran to the back of the bus. Angela and the two men were going into a building. Angela, he shouted. And he stopped. It was too late. The bus was moving quickly down a wide street. The passengers were looking at Tom and he suddenly felt foolish. He walked back to his seat and sat down. What a surprise, he thought to himself. I must tell her when I see her this evening. Suddenly Tom jumped to his feet. It was Angela. Then the bus crossed Ataturk Bridge and Tom looked at the boats on the Golden Horn. Again he felt excited. The bus arrived at the air terminal at 3:45. There were some taxis waiting there. Tom went up to one. The Park Hotel. Taksim Square, please, he told the driver. English? You come with me. I take you quickly. At 4:15, the taxi arrived in the square. Here you are, sir, the Park Hotel. Thank you, said Tom, and paid the driver. Tom went into the hotel. He found the American Bar and sat down at a table on the terrace. A waiter came out. A beer, please, said Tom. He sat in the afternoon sunshine and looked down over the city of Istanbul. The view was very beautiful. He was looking at the sea. The Bosphorus was full of ships. There were very big ships going to Russia and little sailing ships. In the distance, he could see the mosques and palaces of old Istanbul. How beautiful and how exciting! Tom looked at his watch. It was nearly 5 o'clock. He got up and walked up to the hotel entrance. There were lots of people going in and out of the hotel. But he did not see Angela anywhere. He went back to the bar and ordered another beer. "Come on, Angela," Tom said to himself. "Don't be late." Just inside the American bar, a man in a grey raincoat was sitting at a table. He was drinking coffee and smoking cheap cigarettes. A newspaper lay open on the table in front of him. And from time to time he looked at it. But the man wasn't reading the newspaper, he was watching Tom. It was now 5:20. Tom sat in the evening sunshine. He looked at his watch again, and waited. 5:30. 5:45. It was getting dark. He looked at the lights on the Bosphorus. Strange, thought Tom. Angela isn't usually late. Tom sat at the table, on the terrace of the American bar, waiting for his fiancée. He waited, and nobody came. And the man in the grey raincoat sat patiently inside the bar, smoking, and watching Tom. "Another beer, sir?" asked the waiter. "No, bring me a black coffee, please." "Have you a telephone?" "Yes, sir, inside." Tom went into the hotel. There was a telephone beside the reception. Tom dialed Angela's number. The phone rang and rang, but nobody answered it. He put the phone down and turned towards the reception desk. "Excuse me," he asked the receptionist, "Kamrat, do you know where it is?" "Yes, it's very near. Go out at the hotel entrance and turn right. Walk along the street. And Kamrat is fourth on the right." "Thank you," said Tom. Tom went back to the bar. He drank his coffee and paid for his drinks. It was now after 8 o'clock. Tom picked up his suitcase and left the hotel. Inside the bar, the man in the grey raincoat stood up and picked up his newspaper. He put some money on the table and walked out into the street. He stood on the pavement for a moment or two, then started walking. Chapter 3. A shock. Kamrat was a narrow, quiet street of old apartment buildings. Tom walked along the pavement, looking at the numbers on the doors. There was only one street light and it was difficult to see. But finally, he found Angela's address, number 11. The building had a large glass door. Tom pushed it, but it was locked. There was no bell. He knocked on the door. Nothing happened. He knocked again, louder this time, and listened. Silence. Damn, he thought. He was impatient now. And worried. He stood back in the middle of the street and looked up. There were 5 floors, and all the windows were black. There was no light anywhere in the building. "Angela," he said to himself, "Angela. Where are you?" A short distance away, the man in the grey raincoat stood in a dark doorway. He was watching Tom, watching every move he made. Tom did not know what to do. He knocked once more on the glass door, again nothing happened. Finally, he picked up his suitcase. With a last look at the building, he turned and started walking back towards Taksim Square. Tom Smith, he thought to himself. As he walked. You need a hot bath and a good sleep. Then you can decide what to do. The Park Hotel was expensive, but Tom remembered seeing one or two small hotels near Taksim Square. Finally, he was standing outside the Ankara Hotel. He went in. Good evening, he said to the woman at reception. I'd like a single room, please. The woman nodded. We have a nice room upstairs. Come, I'll show you. They went upstairs and she opened a door. Very nice room, she said. It was small, but it was clean and it looked comfortable. I'll take it, he said, and gave the woman his passport. The bathroom is along the corridor, she said. Breakfast is from 8 to 10 o'clock. Good night. Tom put his case down and sat on the bed. He suddenly felt very tired and unhappy. He was not having a good dinner in a nice restaurant. He was not sitting with the woman he loved. He was sitting alone, in a cheap hotel, in a strange city. For a long time he sat on the bed thinking, but I saw Angela. I saw her from the bus. Finally he stood up. Okay, he thought. Tomorrow morning I'll go to Angela's office and find out what has happened. There's a very simple explanation, I'm sure. I'll find out tomorrow. He had a hot bath and got into bed. He was very tired after his long journey and soon fell asleep. The man in the grey raincoat walked across Taksim Square. There was a telephone kiosk in the corner. He dialed a number and waited. Then he spoke. He's in the Ankara Hotel, the man said. He waited at the Park Hotel and then he went to the girl's flat. Now he's in the Ankara Hotel. Yes, of course I will. He put down the phone and left the kiosk. The next morning, Tom felt much better. He had breakfast, then took a taxi to the office where Angela worked. The taxi drove through the busy streets and crossed the Galata Bridge into the old city. Finally, it turned into a small street near the railway station. It was a narrow street of shops, small businesses and workshops. The taxi stopped in front of a grey building. F. Karamian and Company. Export-Import Agency, said the sign above the door. Tom pushed open the door and went in. A secretary was typing at the reception desk. She looked up as Tom came in. Good morning, she smiled. Good morning, said Tom. My name's Tom Smith. I'm looking for Angela Thompson, she's my fiancée. I arrived in Istanbul last night and waited for her, but she didn't. The secretary was staring at him. She stood up. Wait a moment, please, Mr. Smith. She hurried over to a door marked office and went inside. Tom could hear her talking to someone. The door opened and a man came out. He looked very serious. Mr. Smith, my name's Junior. Please come in. Tom went into the office. Please sit down. Mr. Smith, said Junior. Look, I don't know how to tell you this, Mr. Smith. I have some very bad news for you. I'm very sorry indeed, but Miss Thompson, your fiancée, is dead. Chapter 4. I saw her. Drink this, Mr. Smith, said Mr. Junior. He handed Tom a glass of strong brandy. Tom sat, shocked, white-faced, unable to speak. He drank the brandy slowly. How did it happen? He asked. A car accident. Miss Thompson was driving along a dangerous road. No one knows what happened. Her car went off the road and fell down the hillside. Yesterday evening? Tom asked. I beg your pardon? The accident, it happened yesterday evening? Junior looked at him. Mr. Smith, the accident happened a week ago, last Sunday to be exact. She had been away to Bursa for the weekend and... But that's impossible, said Tom. I saw Angela yesterday. Yesterday? Yes. I was on the airport bus, coming into Istanbul. I saw her in the street. I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Smith, but you're making a mistake. No, I tell you I saw her. Mr. Smith, Dianya said patiently, Istanbul is a big city. There must be hundreds of women here who look like your fiancée. Tom said nothing. The British consulate were very helpful, continued Mr. Dianya. They made all the arrangements for the funeral. It was on Wednesday. Have her parents been told about this? Tom asked. That is a problem, I'm afraid. Her parents are on holiday in France. The British and French police are trying to contact them. So they don't know yet, said Tom quietly. No, they don't, I'm afraid. There was a long silence. Can I have another brandy, please? Asked Tom. Of course. Tom tried hard to think clearly. I thought I saw her yesterday. He said softly. I understand, Mr. Smith. It's a great shock, a terrible tragedy for you, for all of us. After a pause, Dianya asked, what will you do now? Mr. Smith? Is there anything I can do to help? I'm not sure, said Tom. I need some time to think. I don't know what to do. Do you know anyone in Istanbul? Suddenly Tom remembered Kamal. Yes, I have friends, don't worry. Look, Mr. Dianya, I can't decide anything now. I think I'll stay in Istanbul for a day or two. I'd like to visit the consulate, and maybe the police. Mr. Dianya opened a drawer in his desk and took out a card. He wrote on it and handed the card to Tom. I've written down the telephone number of Mr. David Pennington. He's the man in the consulate who made the arrangements for the funeral. The other number is my office telephone number. Contact me if you need anything. I'm here during the day. Tom stood up. I must go now, he said. Thank you, you've been most kind. Mr. Dianya walked with him to the door. Well, Mr. Smith, once again, I'm terribly sorry. You know I was so sure I saw her. So sure, Tom said. I understand, replied Dianya. It's a terrible shock. The two men shook hands. Remember, come here any time if you need anything, said Mr. Dianya. Goodbye, now. Goodbye, said Tom, and walked out into the street. Mr. Dianya turned and walked back into his office. He closed the door carefully and sat down at his desk. For a few minutes he sat thinking. Then he picked up the telephone. Tom walked slowly through the crowded streets of old Istanbul. The streets were busy and full of interesting people, shops and cafes. But Tom did not see any of those things. He was not interested in Istanbul. He was not a tourist anymore. Tom was thinking of Angela. He remembered the journey on the bus from the airport. He was sure he had seen Angela. She had been there on the pavement, getting out of a car. But Dianya said it was not Angela. Angela was dead. She had died a week ago. Tom walked through the streets of the city. He walked through the Grand Bazaar. He walked on and on through narrow old streets. He didn't know where he was, or what time it was. He thought about Angela. He thought again about his journey on the bus from the airport. Again and again he thought about it, and again he saw his fiancée. Then he stopped walking, and stood for a moment on the pavement. He was standing on a street beside the sea. Angela isn't dead, he thought. I saw her. He looked in his pocket and found Kamal's telephone number. He walked quickly across the street to a cafe. He went inside to the telephone. Hello, Kamal? Hello, it's me, Tom. Remember? Yes, fine thanks. Listen, remember you said I could phone you if I needed anything? Well, something has happened. Can we meet somewhere? Chapter 5. A disappointing day. So, said Kamal, you really think you saw her, do you? Kamal and Tom were sitting in the American bar at the Park Hotel. Tom thought carefully for a moment before answering. Yes, he said slowly. Yes, I do. You probably think I imagined it. I understand that. But I'm convinced I saw her, that's all. Kamal nodded. I can't stop thinking about yesterday, Tom continued. I close my eyes and I can see Angela there on the pavement. I can't forget that. Listen, Tom, said Kamal. We only met yesterday, but already we're friends. You're in my country, you're my friend, and you need help. If you think you saw Angela, that's enough for me. I believe you. Now we have to decide what to do. There are two things I want to do as soon as possible, said Tom. I want to go to the street where I saw Angela. Then I want to go to the British consulate. I have an appointment for this afternoon. Okay, said Kamal. The street where you saw Angela. Do you think you can remember where it is? No problem, said Tom. We can drive along the same route as the airport bus. I'm sure I'll remember it. And what do you think you will find there? I'm not sure. But she was going into a building with two men. At least we can find the building, maybe that will tell us something. Okay, said Kamal. My car's outside. Let's go. Tom and Kamal were driving through the city. It was a wide street, said Tom. We came to a roundabout after the traffic lights. We turned left and then we passed an old aqueduct. Aksaray, said Kamal. It's near here. Kamal drove over Ataturk Bridge. After a few minutes, they saw the old aqueduct. Then they came to a large roundabout and turned right. This is it, said Tom. It's somewhere near here. They were approaching some traffic lights. Tom looked out of the window at the buildings on the left. No, he said. Not here. They drove on to the next traffic lights. This is it, said Tom. This is the place. Kamal stopped the car. You get out. I'll find a parking place. Tom got out and looked around him. He was in a wide street of shops and offices. A newspaper kiosk, a travel agency, he remembered them from the day before. He stood looking at the buildings opposite until Kamal arrived. Tom pointed across the street to the entrance to an office building. That's it, I think, he said. They crossed the street and looked at the nameplate beside the entrance to the office block. There were many names there: a lawyer, a dentist, a doctor, and many other offices. Tom stood looking at the names for a few moments. Well, he said finally, I'm sure she went into this building. But which office was she going to? Was she going to see a lawyer, or a dentist, or a doctor? How do we begin to find out? Kamal took his arm gently, and they walked slowly back to the car. Listen, Tom, he said. You're going too fast. You can't expect to find out everything immediately. Wait until you see the man at the consulate. After that, we'll think about it. Then we can decide what to do. We know she was going into that building. That's something, anyway. Now look, it's lunchtime. You must be hungry. I know a good restaurant near here. You're right, said Tom. We have to be patient.